Ireland is divided into 32 counties. That runs from the top of bloody Foreland right down to the very tip of Mizenhead. This series, entitled A Country of Contrasts, is lucky enough to have an older person from every single one of those 32 counties tell us what life was like in their county growing up. And today we feature the county of Monaghan.
I'm Willy Dixon from County Monaghan. I'm heading for the 80s, a year short of 80. I was the lone Protestant in our school. I was the exception. It had been need because there was no such a thing as transport at that time, and the next Protestant school would have been at least twice the distance away. The one that we went to was about 1.5 miles to 1.75 miles. The next thing to 2 miles, I suppose, from the house. The other one would have been twice that now, but would have been almost. You got a wee bit of jibing by times. A wee bit, not a whole lot. There used to be bits of chants and things. But I don't think they'd done it. It wasn't done, but it was coming from somewhere in the family. That was the bigger problem. You know, I never read going to a Catholic school, to a Roman Catholic school, because I knew as much about the Roman Catholic faith and what they taught and what I could see wrong with it, to put it bluntly, you know what I mean? And that time now, there's an awful reliance on what the priest could do or not do. They come visiting to school, the teacher and the children all had to be specially washed, and you know, and he'd come in boss of all. So I can always remember that attitude, like, but it wasn't the attitude of the countryside, just, you know. I think 3 teachers, one for the most of the time. She was a Miss Cronin from Cork, and they had a special place out in the playgrounds for growing a big sally bush, and that was cut any time the one got broken in school. I'd be sent out to cut another one. You get it beaten with it round the legs or round the head or anywhere they could reach. Anywhere. There's one girl at school on a farm. She lived on a farm, and that horses of their own, and a horse hit her a kick and damaged her ears. And sometime after she was at school, and the teacher thought she'd done someone wrong, or maybe did do someone wrong, but the teacher caught her by the 2 ears and lifted her up. And that particular teacher, it was one of the ways of making you remember the day, lifting you by the ears off the ground. The old way of education was beat it into them, beat it into the children, and I suppose maybe sometimes it worked all right, but a lot of times it didn't. So you wouldn't get away with it now. Didn't go any further. I was out of school about 13 or 14, and that's all the bit of education I ever got.
Ireland in the early 20th century was a poor country. The levels of poverty in many isolated rural areas were exceptional by Western standards. In 1930, the total population on the island of Ireland was just under 3 million people. The great majority of those people were living in the countryside or in country towns and villages. And that's according to the Muckross Research Library and their website muckrosshouse.ie.
Well, there was a woman lived one field from our place, and by accident or otherwise she had a baby, and that one room altogether, a total earth and clay floor. a bit of a board shelf across in one corner of it, and a bit of a fire, and that was it. And I took that lad to school, and he'd nothing to eat leaving the house. Nothing for the mother either. They'd a couple of goats, that was the lot. No clothes of any consequence. That young lad, oh no, you know what I mean, but he had no clothes that end down at all, no coverage at all hardly. I mean, trying to pull one part up to meet the other part. That's how bad now. There's no clothes, there's nothing available. And people hadn't that much to give away to give it to their own, that kind of an area. That fella left school, went away to England, and I think he'd be dead now. He was younger than me, all right, because I took him to school. His uncle was a wee bit of a synthetic type man too. He couldn't agree with council, so he split the top of a ditch and slept on the top of the ditch. Had a bit of a place on the top of the ditch to sleep on. And he had a great history of the IRA and where he took men out of. And there was one big stoppage one time at a train cloners, and he was involved, But I had no problem with him. The council he hadn't rent paid or someone on the bit of ground he had. The county council. He got off of sleeping on the hedge for years. He was a great fisherman. He gave me the leavings of the stuff he had when near dying. He used to get in the bacon, what they call pig factories, and he'd get some kind of offal or something like that and boil it. As a matter of fact, like 2 fields up from that was his original own house, but through some work with the county council, it's out.
In medieval Ireland, bards were one of 2 distinct groups of poets, the other being the file. The distinction between the file and the bards was a creation of Christian Ireland, and according to Liam Branagh, the file was more associated with the church. Irish bards formed a professional, hereditary caste of highly trained, learned poets. The bards were steeped in the history and tradition of clan and country. They were chroniclers and satirists whose job was to praise their employers and to damn those who crossed them. And that's according to the website Wikipedia.
My father was in a band, a flute band at a time, and she was serious for music, as my father was. So any place for a night's crack, get out. You could have to walk 3 or 4 or 5 miles maybe around the places. Do you ever heard of people making songs on you? There's a couple of men, there's one man in particular in our country, and he was a sort of a bard. He could make up a song, or litany or anything at all, And one that I knew the locality of well, there's people belong to there yet. People used to invite him out to the house, but you'd have to book him. There was that big a demand. And our house was one where most of the people coming in were Roman Catholics, and they had to watch what they said nearly, because if he met you at all, he had a whole lot to say about it. There's one man in the country yonder, and he was going to the girl for quite a while. He got married and went to live. It was the only daughter, and he went to live on the farm. But they fell out, and he had to go back to his own house. And just he managed to take his cap off or someone in his story. Some people go to Bangor and others go to Bray. Some go to somewhere else, and enjoy a holiday. But there's one Jimmy Gilmore, he picked a curious mark, for he spent last summer's holidays on a place they called Arwa. Well, Arwa was a townland without one house in it. You see, everybody, man would walk through the door and maybe wouldn't close it down. The Arwa man's coming, you see. And everybody took it as a laugh that the Arwa, he'd make it as quick, you know. That's why he was invited round the places, you know. That's the type of nights that be somewhere, the cows milked, you dawdle off somewhere along the road or somewhere, maybe they're dancing up on the floor there. You're dancing, like you talk about dancing there, and some of the kitchens, or as we call them, kitchens that time, it was the only place there was for making the tea or anything. Like there's kitchens nowadays. But what room would you have putting 8 or 10 men standing trying to dance there? And there's an old gramophone usually. But did you ever see a jaw harp? I started playing it for night for dancing. I'd been at school at the time. It was an easy thing. It was an easy thing played because your breath changed the tune on it. And it was easy to play. You just kept her going. I didn't see one about this long time.
A report entitled County Monaghan, a profile of cultural diversity, has a chapter in it entitled Cross-Border Music Appreciation. And there was an interview with a lady called Patricia Murtha, who speaks about the Cardiff Pipe Band. And she says, this Peace 3 funded project saw Cardiff Pipe Band from a Catholic area of County Monaghan team up with Killeen Pipe Band from a Protestant area in County Armagh. Cardiff saw this as an opportunity to learn from Killeen Pipe Band, who were a Grade 2 competition band, while at the same time learning about their culture and their heritage. The Cardiff Pipe Band travelled to Killeen's venue, which is in Orange Hall, for training sessions and workshops. In return, Killeen travelled to Cardiff Community Centre. Patricia believes that the project improved relations between the two communities, saying, we learnt about the background, the history, the culture of the Protestant band. We got to know others of a different tradition, and through the common goal of music, we got on very well.
A lot of our people would have followed music a lot, particularly bands. And it used to be, when it come to the July in particular, at our house you could hear about 8 different bands out practicing at night. Brass bands, flute bands, very little in accordion bands, and a little pipe bands. But there's a lot of brass bands that you could hear quite a distance. And nice calm evening you could hear noises in all direction. That's going through pressure, you know where. A system had been lost. It's still there, parts of County Monaghan. For instance, there's just below where you turned, there's a pipe band hall, and still going strong, you know. But there's not near as many bands in the countryside. The Protestant people are more or less inclined more for music. And Roman Catholics now, there's quite a few bands that time too, in Roman Catholic bands. There is a few bands now, all right, in the Roman Catholic side too. There's a pipe band down in Clontubbert in both denominations. And they meet on the road there and they play down the road to somewhere, a hall, another hall, both sides between them. It's only about less than a mile from where you are. There's a Roman Catholic chapel there. And beside where the band starts is the Protestant hall. Well, there's bands as far back as I can remember in the Roman Catholic bands, Hibernian bands mostly, under political denomination type. There's not many of them now either. There's a museum up in Cavan. And the man that was over specialised in running Protestant and Roman Catholic stuff and putting displays on. And I think the night probably that I can always remember we're all invited to one particular evening, and they put the head of the orange order, the head of the apprentice boys, the head of the ancient order of Iberians, and a man from Foresters. Foresters too, there are a couple of Foresters bonds about. They brought them together for a particular night, and they put them all up on the stage together on the platform, and they give their different opinions on a situation, and that happened to be one of the serious times when there was trouble down, what are they called, Yervahi or some of them places in Northern Ireland, and it was meant to be getting people together, that meeting, you know, show both sides of what, that there wasn't maybe anything big that they should be up in arms about. But anyhow, the museum had that policy of that and carried that on for quite a while afterwards, changing different stuff they had in the museum, and I think there's something coming up maybe soon and again. But the museum, as far as I'm aware now, and I wouldn't be 100% sure, was a convent. And then there's, I don't know what you call it, history or not made later on, there's meeting of the Orange Order in the convent. I wasn't at it, but you know, it was trying to bring people together, and the changing times. I'd have been looking for bands myself, but not nowadays either, you know. They've been taken as contentious, and they're never meant to be that way. But those things changed in outlooks for, say, both sides, that were brought in and used deliberately to make things contentious. Instead of trying to bring the people together, it put them further apart.
Roman philosopher Cicero, back in 43 BC, advocated peace to anyone who would listen to him. He said, "I like to believe that people in the long run are going to do more to promote peace than our governments. Indeed, I think that people want peace so much that one of these days governments had better get out of the way and let them have it."
I was over a festival in Monaghan at the time. We got it going, a few people that was interested in music, and Port Falk at the time was looking for bringing people into the country. They still are supposed to be, whether succeeding or not, but anyhow, there's a few of us liked music anyway, and we took a notion to run a band festival in Monaghan town. We were getting 50 and 60 and 70 bands over 2 days. And we're in with Port Falk and Guinness group sales and a few people like that to get, but we had to beg near on our knees to get fun. And we made the headlines in English and Irish press. Orange and green marched together in Monaghan. And I think it was the best thing ever happened. But we got going for a few years, and then we started a pipe band contest, 2-day event, 50 or 60 pipe bands. Be several thousand people. We had to get the roads and all organised to take the traffic in. It was organised under the different band associations which is in existence. Ireland, England and different places, pipe band association here, and you know. We had a platform for judging. They had to be judged, and there was right good money at the time for winning first, second and third. But the next thing then we started to get phone calls and things. There was a bomb on such a platform, and had to abandon it. It was just destroyed through, I'll not say politics, because politics is not clean either, but there's them things under cover type things. Very bad. Still, if that process had to last, there would have been no bother. It may have been still a line on the map, but that's all. People were mixing that well at that particular time. There was no bother. There was no bother at the time. I met people that time, made friends with them, and years after I seen them again, and the first thing they'd ask about, you remember Monaghan? Oh no. Music, no boundaries until it is made in Monaghan.
One of Ireland's most characteristic features is our bogs. Bogs cover 1/6 of the whole island of Ireland. And we have more bogs, relatively speaking, than any country in Europe except Finland.
Well, in the wartime, as was said there was very little firing about anything good in the countryside was cut down. And we started to go to Brennan Mountain. Now, Brennan is about 15 to 20 miles from here, and it's in the borders of Tyrone and Monaghan. And a lot of the people and shop boys in the towns had to go and cut there, that cut the turf, so many days cutting, so many days drying and hoping for good weather and all this carry out. But you had to go down in the base hill, and there's about 5 mile of that down the hill and 5 mile walking coming up. The bit that you got down handy, you had to walk up it again. It took about 2 hours and a half to get to it from our place on bicycles, and 2 hours and a half to get home. So a good part of the day spent on getting there and getting home. But they started then what they called an hotel, an old house, and a block of straw and all, and they're sleeping at night, you see. But there's a family lived Custard, Mac Custard, and used to go into it when I go down to the basket, and they'd make tea and things for you. And there's a lovely big hearth fire, and it is clean as that floor there, and it blazing up round. And there's an old woman, there's 3 generations about the floor. The man wasn't seen that often altogether, but there's an old woman then, and a young lad. And the young lad maybe is only 10 or that, you see. And the old one day I was in, and constant occurrence, of course. There was wee pigeonholes round the hearth fire. That was the old way the hearth fire is. Stuck someone over there to leave it till you wanted it. But she had a pipe, one of the old white pipes, and tobacco. And she peeled for a while at the tobacco, and she lit her up and pulled a while, and she handed over to the young lad. She handed over to the young lad, and he took a lot of draws out of it. He was about 10. You know, again, some of that sticks in your mind that wouldn't be normal occurrence in your own place.
The term ghost gets everyone talking. The word itself is derived from an Old English word called ghast, and it actually means an embodied spirit or soul. Ghosts are often associated with hauntings, which, according to the Parapsychological Association, is often associated with a particular locality, like a building, and is usually attributed to the activities of a spiritual entity. The phenomena may be apparitions, poltergeist disturbances, cold drafts, sound of steps, voices, and even odours.
You can believe in things too that would be long out of place maybe. Used to be a field beside our place where I lived, and there's one field that there's a ghost in, and several people got lost in that field at night, in the dark of the night. It was a shortcut across from another road, through another man's lawn and into your own lawn, or near that type of system. And was supposed to be haunted, or someone in that big field. And I had experienced it with my father and myself, walked around for hours one night. I couldn't get out of it. We walked right around the perimeter. We couldn't get a gap or a gate to come out through. And at the other end, we landed out and our head went through someone we'd never seen. And we're away out from the field altogether. We found ourselves in somewhere else where we knew we didn't pass through the gate. We landed we landed on the far side there without ever recognising that we've got to there. That's sticking there ever since. Oh, that happened. It's all explained over our head now and getting lost. There had to be an answer for it, but I never got it. I never knew it. There's a mixed, what we call around here in the border area, a mixed area, mixed population. Protestants and Catholics and Roman Catholics and the whole lot, and they never made any difference between each other. You'd have to start to think if somebody asked you what are they. You joined up and whatever had to be done. You know what it was? Tossing a three, if you had a spare three, the neighbours would all gather around to help you out. There was always cross helps. There was next to no money ever passed. There was one man in an orchard, and the neighbours would go to gather some of his spuds when he'd be digging spuds for the horse digger that time. When he'd be digging the spuds, they'd go and help, and they get apples. You know, so there's a thing in the back of the mind that how can I divide this out and help somebody else out? Now, you wouldn't even get talking to the people in the house. You'd have to get two locks on the door open first. I wouldn't be talking about boundaries at all. I can't see a lot of difference. There's a difference in the tone of their voices from different places. You can tell almost where they're from just by listening to their voices. I've quoted this in several repeated times. I've done the National Dairy Committee for 4 or 5 years in Dublin, and there's a Donegal man which sometimes I lifted halfway up, only half of the journey. And there was a Kerry man, and we sat almost beside each other. Well, now, when the Donegal man would announce someone, somebody'd have to interpret it for the Kerry man or vice versa.
My name is Caroline Brennan. Thanks for listening. This series has been kindly funded through the Sound and Vision Scheme, which is a funding scheme from the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland.